Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. My apologies are apologies. We had an executive session that just finished up. We thank you for your patience. Tonight, we have the student representatives of the Springfield Empowerment Zone Board. And first up is the John J. Duggan Middle Academy Middle and High School. And we have Principal Mike Calvanese and William Snow, Assistant Principal, and also Principal Lisa Hall. And first on the list is Ryan Anderson, who was from high school, and we're very happy with the exciting news that the new field capacity is going to be expanded there, and we're excited about that. So I'll turn it over whether to Principal Calvanese or any other administrators there for any introduction, and we'll go to Ryan Anderson first, please.
All right, thanks, Mayor Sarno. We're going to be turning over to Mr. Snow. I think he's on the call. Mr. Snow is our assistant principal. And I have Mr. Hurley here, our dean of culture for our middle school students. So thank you, Mayor Sarno. Thank you for pushing that field through, too. We really appreciate it. Mr. Snow, are you there? Tim, do you want to start with the middle school student? Is that okay?
We can do that.
That's fantastic.
Zahira Wakas Bahati.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm Tim Hurley. I'm the Dean of Culture, one of the Dean of Cultures at Duggan Academy. And I've known Ms. Zara Batty since she was in 6th grade. And actually from her first week of school, because within her first week of being at Duggan, she had 3 teachers recommend her to become an ambassador. And she's been an ambassador for the last 3 years. She's in 8th grade now. And when I have large group gatherings with the students in her grade, Zara is my partner. She helps me run all of my meetings, and she helps me run enrichment. To making changes in student schedules for different enrichment, from running the meetings. When we were on Zoom last year, she was a co-host for every Zoom meeting with 120 students that were in her grade, and she helped me run it. She would look to make sure that students were behaving and they weren't changing their names, and she'd send me messages just to keep everybody in line. And like Ryan, who's going to speak after her, Ryan was an ambassador since 6th grade. I see that same potential in Zara Batty. She makes a difference in every class. She's a scholar. She receives high marks. And when we do enrichments, she doesn't choose a teacher in the building to have an enrichment with. Since she's been in 6th grade, she's chosen a community partner to spend 2 hours with once a week because they make her a better person. So I am proud to introduce Ms. Zara Batty.
Thank you. Zara?
Hello.
Hello.
So, greetings, Mayor Sarno and the city of Springfield. My name is Zara Bhatti. I am an 8th grade ambassador and have been in this role since my 6th grade year. Today, I will talk to you about what it means to be a Jayhawk at Duggan Academy. To be a Jayhawk is to be respectful, responsible, and safe. We show respect by listening to our teachers and always treating each other with kindness. We display responsibility by completing our classwork, paying attention, and participating in class. Staying safe in school is another priority of being a Jayhawk. We want to always keep ourselves and those around us safe by, of course, keeping our masks on and over our noses. Here at Duggan, it's not only a school, but a haven for most of us. We work hard and have fun while doing it. And thank you, Mr. Hurley, for nominating me.
Nice job, young lady. Nice job, Zahara. Is Ryan up? Mr. Anderson, Ryan?
It's Ryan Anderson, and Ryan has been with us in 6th grade. Mr. Hurley mentioned a few nice things about Ryan as well, but I also want to add that she's a phenomenal writer, and her English teacher believes she will be published someday, and so we look forward to that. Ryan, go ahead.
I apologize, Ryan. Miss Anderson.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Superintendent Warwick, Mr. Calvanese, Mr. Snow, and the school committee. I'm Ryan Anderson, a current senior at John J. Duggan Academy, and I would like to share my educational experience and the impact it has had on me. For those who know me, they would say that school has been my life, and I've always tried to be a part of it as much as it has been a part of me. My humble beginnings were just that, humble and somewhat uninteresting. I didn't go to preschool, and I had to wait an extra year to begin kindergarten, so I was behind in the traditional sense of an in-school experience. I had never known kids my age outside of my twin sister, so all I thought I had to do was try, but trying wasn't enough. I can recall one time where I couldn't spell butterfly, and instead of getting effective help, I kept getting told to sound it out. But how can a kid just sound it out when they don't know how to spell it or enunciate like the others? I went home crying that day and swore to do better, and I did, because even at that age, I knew I couldn't afford to feel as horribly as I did that day. School then became my niche and would remain the center of my world for a while. I was dedicated to perfection and craved the 100s because I was seen and respected by all. I could raise my hand and say I knew what I was talking about. The downside was when I messed up. I would shut down completely because I didn't like being wrong. My classmates disliked me for being a know-it-all, and I thought I was stuck up. And I had never felt more alone. So I decided to do something about it to be liked and respected. Long story short, each year up until now ended in the same way. I was unhappy with school, unhappy with my friendships, and I tried and did receive good grades, but I wondered when it would truly mean something. By 10th grade, I stood at the bottom of this ravine and I couldn't find a way out, so I lashed out a lot. Then came 11th grade quarantine year. I started to slowly give up, uncertain about life after high school, or even seeing a point in trying to write perfect essays or getting all A's. I questioned my passion for school. People always seemed to see me for my ability, and if I couldn't be the best, then who was I without it? This past year in remote learning, I could see my safety net of education fraying, and I couldn't fix it. In retrospect, 11th grade year was my decaying love for education and lost thoughts for me. Last summer, before starting senior year, I applied for an internship at Duggan, a summer program tutor for middle schoolers. Going into it, I wasn't expecting it to be my saving grace. I saw kids, not in the way that being back in school, not remotely. They were in front of me, and I had the opportunity to see their humanity, their personalities, get to know them. And that led me to want to become a teacher, and I did decide to want to become a teacher because I enjoyed that little taste I got. I realized I didn't hate education. I had a new perspective of how education can still play a huge role in my life, and I wanted to give that back. I loved being a Duggan ambassador throughout middle school and learned through my encounters the many different peoples and experiences I could have. I've enjoyed being class president because I'm in the role where I am relied upon and get to really know people. I sincerely appreciate the connections that helping others has brought to me. I love helping others because I get a chance to see them, find a way out for them, even if it's just a first step. It wasn't education I disliked. No, quite the opposite. I didn't like the expectation. I didn't like the need to feel uncomfortably right or perfect. And I didn't like that personalities and creativity were stifled just for validation. Education is but the gateway to creativity and connection. And that stunted by pointless assignments and test scores, it made it seem like it didn't matter. But I've recognized when schools are allowed to be lively and inclusive, rather than sticking to the same old methods, education is everything. Despite having its challenges like all schools do, Duggan let me be who I was when it really mattered. It was my saving grace, even at a time I didn't feel like I could be saved. It allowed me to fly. Thank you.
Nice job, Ryan. Thank you, Duggan Academy, middle and high school, Principal Calvanese and staff. Great work that you're doing there. My alma mater, the High School of Commerce, is up. And if I pronounce your name wrong, please let me know. Monet Feigen Naylor and Tiara Ortiz, and is supported by Madam Principal Sonia Donnell is here. And I also want to thank again Focus Springfield, Brendan, for allowing us to make sure we keep this public access to our city of Springfield. So I'll turn it over to Principal Donnell, please.
Yes, good evening. Good evening. It's so
evening.
great for this opportunity. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Sarno and Superintendent Warwick, as well as committee members and other special guests, scholars, and friends. Always a pleasure to present to you the finest that Springfield has to offer, and that would be the scholars that we have here this evening. Two of those scholars are none other than Monet and Tiana. They represent Commerce well. In spite of all of the transitions that Commerce has endured, these two young women have persevered and they have soared. We are so very proud of how they represent us. We're proud of all that they've accomplished in their 4 years while at the High School of Commerce. And we're very proud of where they are going as soon as they graduate in June of 2022. Without further ado, it is indeed a pleasure and an honor to present to you Miss Monet. She is the president-elect of the class of 2022, and Miss Tiara. She most definitely is a scholar, an athlete, and a standout in our dual enrollment program. I'm going to ask Monet to go first, followed by Tiara. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal DeMel. Monet?
To the Honorable Mayor Dominic Sarno, Superintendent Mr. Daniel Warwick, school committee members, other guests and friends, good evening and thank you for this opportunity to represent the High School of Commerce. I am Monet Finnegan-Naylor and I've been enrolled in the Student Council since freshman year. I'm currently senior class president. I've been in the honor roll and AP classes since freshman year. I was a part of the basketball and cheer team. I'm currently dignitarian and a part of the Youth Advisory Board for the Hampton District Attorney. Something I truly aspire is becoming a prosecutor and traveling the world. The High School of Commerce has helped me with the dual enrollment program, specifically the criminal justice class with Worcester State, which I truly loved. And the sincere staff who have been by my side every step of the way. Thank you.
Monet, nice job. Or should I say, Attorney Monet? Very good. Tiara, you are up.
Hello, to the Honorable Mayor Nick Sarno, Superintendent, Mr. Daniel Warwick, school committee members, other guests and friends, good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to represent the High School of Commerce. You've heard my name a few times. My name is Tiara Ortiz. I am a senior at the High School of Commerce. I've been there all 4 years. I was their first class of the sophomore dual enrollment, and I've done it since, so sophomore, junior, and senior year. I have won most scholarly for the highest GPA amongst dual enrollment students, and I have won most valuable scholar athlete as I've been a year-round athlete at Commerce. I'm also a part of the student council and student ambassador program at Commerce. I aspire to attend an Ivy League college in the near future, and Commerce has helped me get into a position that it is possible by presenting opportunities to take early college courses and attain college credits. I'm up to about 24 credits at the moment, and I still have the next semester and this semester. And obviously I have to pass the classes to get the credit, but I'm on my way there. So I'll be leaving as a sophomore once my college credits transfer to any college that I go to. And being involved in my school community has set a foundation for my future by giving me experience and resources to use beyond high school. So thank you, the High School of Commerce, for that. And thank you guys for your time today.
Tiara, you're like the Renaissance woman. Very good. Very impressive, Principal DeMel.
Well done. Thank you both,
Monet
ladies.
and
And
Tiara.
as you can see, Mayor Sarno, we are staying true to the legacy that you graduated from. Not only does Commerce produce mayors, but we also produce future leaders such as Ms. Tiara Ortiz and Monet Naylor. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Principal. Very good. Let's continue the hit parade here. Van Sickle Academy, and I know that supported by Principal Bobby Francesca. I saw your parents' 6 o'clock mass at Mount Carmel this past Sunday. Alicia Luga, counselor. Ronnie McCoy, assistant principal. Danisha Davis, Raylan Harlow are up. So I'll turn it first over to Bobby Francesca. Principal Francesca?
He's actually not here.
Okay,
He
I'll
left.
turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Sarno, Superintendent Warwick, and school committee members. My name is Alicia Lugo. I'm the 8th grade counselor here at Vancicle Academy, and I'm going to introduce to you two of our amazing 8th grade students, Denisha Davis and Raylan Harlow.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lugo.
Hello, Mayor Sarno and Superintendent Warwick, members of school committee and honored guests. My name is Denisha Davis, and I am currently an 8th grade student at Vancouver Academy. Thank you for giving me a chance to address you this evening. The pandemic has affected me personally because I cannot do a lot of things I wanted to do, like sports, go places, and do art. I stopped doing sports, but I improved my art. I improved my art by learning how to draw people, learning how to use certain technique like blending, shading, draw angles with perspective. I was fortunate that my grades stayed the same while we were remote, not being able to see my friends and family as much as I wanted to. It feels good to be back in school because now I can interact with my peers and I can also be back into my extra after school activities like sports. Getting back into sports and seeing my friends has also made a world of a difference. So now that I can be out of the house, it helps me do better in school by interacting with students and teachers. I like being back because online school was boring since I couldn't really interact with my friends during school. But being back is better because I can get help and also can work with my friends. This school year, I hope to accomplish sport records, good grades, stepping up, and to get into high school of my choice. I want to participate in sports so I can get a reputation for high school and hopefully a scholarship. The high school that I want to go to is Central because I want to be able to have a chance to make their state renowned teams. Central will help me prepare for college, and that will also help me with my career. I haven't enrolled Putnam because that helps me learn how to build things, so I want to do engineering, products, or art because I love to do art. Preparing for a vocation would help me have options. In 5 years, I see myself in college working toward my goal of owning a house. I'll either be in college for art, sports, law, engineering, or working with kids. I'm at an age where the world has so much to offer, I don't want to limit myself. I feel like Van Sickle can help me accomplish that because they can help me with my schooling so I can have choices and options. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Anisha. Nice job. Raylan, please.
Hello, Mayor Sarno, Superintendent Warwick, and members of the school committee and honorable guests. My name is Raylan Harlow, and I am currently an 8th grade student at Van Sickle Academy. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address you this evening. The pandemic has affected me in many ways. I could not see my family. I couldn't go places because everything was closed. We had to do school online, so it was different. I felt overwhelmed and isolated and sometimes frustrated because we had to learn how to do everything at home. I couldn't see or hang out with my friends. Last year, I only went to school for like the last 2 weeks because of the pandemic. However, there were a few positives. I was able to focus on my schoolwork and not other things, so my grades went up and my test scores improved. I feel better being back in school because I think that when we are in person, we can get more help from the teachers and are able to socialize, which is important to be a teenager. We can interact, which is so much better than Teams or Zoom. School and socialization helps us practice having better relationships with our peers, preparing us to be well-adjusted adults. It feels a little intense because teachers push us to be better because they want us to have the future we want for ourselves. This school year, I want to accomplish better grades, which are important to me because I want to be successful and get a good job. To get a good job, I must finish school and go to college, so being back in person is a step towards my accomplishments. This is the time in my life I hope to find a friendship that will last for the rest of my life. However, my high school ambitions are to graduate, of course. However, I am still undecided on which high school I want. I envision myself doing something in medicine or working with kids. That is why if I had to choose a school today, I would go to Putnam. I hear they have both those programs. When I think about the next 5 years, it could almost be anything, but I'm hoping to be in college, studying abroad, learning more about the world we are a small part of. Thank you for your time and allowing me this platform.
Thank you, Raylan. Nice job. Rise Academy, Rise Prep High School at Van Sickles in the house. Shay Denise, if I pronounce your name wrong, please correct me. And Dino Gauthier, Julio Ramos Diaz, Selassie Ogden, and they're supported by Executive Principal Anna Breen and Tiffany Carr, Assistant Principal.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Shai Andino. She is an 8th grader at Rise Prep Academy, and she is just an amazing, amazing role model. She is a scholar, she is a great community member, and she works really hard every single day. She's really nervous today, but I believe she can do it. Go for it, Shai.
Good evening, Mayor Charno, members of
Hi,
the school committee. Huh?
I said hi.
Hi, sorry. I'm Shai
No.
Dennis, and I'm an 8th grader at Rise Academy Prep. Rise Academy Prep is a school that has given me an experience that no other school has shown me. It showed me to be kind and respectful to others no matter what. At Rise Academy Prep, the staff members make sure that every kid in the school feels safe and comfortable. They make sure there is laughter and joy. For example, they have a thing called Joy Time. Joy Time is an activity that makes kids feel successful. Joy Time is something that needs to be earned. For example, you need to be good, respectful, and putting effort and work in classes. Joy Time is the time where kids get to hang out with their friends and celebrate their success that they did all week. I have never been to a school where I get to have good learning experience and have some time to hang out with friends because of my success. Rise Academy has made me a better person and student. It has not only helped me learn success, it helped me show me a better path in life. And thank you for having me.
Way to go, Shai. Did a great job. Great job.
Julio, are you here? If you are, you can unmute. That's a negative. So that's all from Rise Academy.
Oh, is Selassie here?
Selassie, are
Selassie.
you?
Selassie Ogden? Well,
No, he-
Shai, you did a great job for everybody. We appreciate that. Thank you, Rise Academy and Rise Prep High School at Van Sickle. Thank you very much. To close out, Emergence Academy, this is at Van Sickle also. Sofia Ferrer Guerrera, Cavani's, if I pronounce your name wrong, Concepcion Rivera, supported by Amanda Gauthier, Principal, Isael Ramos, Assistant Principal.
Good
Emergence
evening.
Academy is emerging. They're up.
Here we are. And we're actually at Commerce now, Mayor Sarno. We've moved. We were at Van
Got to
Sickle
correct
last
that
year.
then.
Yeah, so we're
Glad to have you
good
there.
friends with Commerce and Springfield Honors Academy this year, which has been awesome. I'm so proud to be able to introduce Sophia and Kavianis, who joined us this summer for all 5 weeks of summer school. And then they continued being rock stars this fall. And they're here to share a little bit about their experience at Emergence so far this year. So Sophia, you're up first.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Sano, Superintendent Warwick, and all Springfield Public School staff and students. My name is Sofia Ferrer. I am originally from Colombia. One of the reasons why I love Emergence Academy is because it's easier to learn English since the teacher explains the material well. Another reason is because it is not always a serious environment. We also laugh a lot as we learn. My classmates treating me well, and the teachers are really laughing. I also love the energy of every student and teacher, and I feel comfortable. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Way to go, Sophia. Bravo, bravo. Very good. Cavani's? If I pronounced it wrong, please correct me. Oh, there she is.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor Sarna, Superintendents Warwick, and all Springfield Public School staff and students. My name is Kevianis Rivera. I am originally from Sidra, Puerto Rico. I am a current student at Emergence Academy. One of the reasons why I love my school is because some staff speak my language and different languages. Having people in the school that speak my language make it easier to communicate and spread myself. Also, having students that speak my language make it easier to make friends. Those are reasons why Emergence Academy is my favorite school out of all the three that I have attended. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, Cavani's. Good job. Thank you, everybody. Staff and the students did a great job. That concludes our student representatives from the Springfield Empowerment Zone evening, and we'll take a 1-minute recess. You're more than welcome to stay, and then we'll go into our regularly scheduled meeting. Good health and God bless. Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Present.
Here. Present. Can we all please rise for a moment of silence and then the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We're also, I believe, joined by our student representative, Nathaniel Claudio from Putnam Vocational Technical Academy. We're glad to have him on board. We'll now go to section 2, approval of the minutes. Approve the minutes of September 30th, 2021 regular session. Any questions or comments?
So moved.
Any motion by Vice Chair Collins, or second, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Naylor. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes, more than sufficient votes. This matter passes. Thank you. We'll now move to section 3. These are voting items. A is to approve the revisions of the Putnam admissions policy. This is the second vote. And once again, to the viewing audience, many of the nuts and bolts and the long meetings are held in subcommittees, and I commend the chairman and chairwoman of the subcommittees for holding those meetings. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Ward, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The state changed the requirements for admission to vocational high schools, so we made some slight alterations in the requirements for entry to Putnam to come in compliance with those new regulations. We had an extensive meeting at subcommittee on this, and it went through subcommittee, and it's already been approved by the committee once. Went through the vocational subcommittee. I didn't know if Attorney Murphy wanted to speak to it.
Attorney Murphy?
No, thank you, Mayor. We did review the policy quite thoroughly, and we'd ask that you recommend approval.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy. Any questions or comments pertaining to the superintendent's or Attorney Murphy's report? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion on the floor, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gresham, roll call, excuse me, is there a second, please?
Second.
Boy, that's a tie there. Ms. Perez? And Ms. Perez has seconded it. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, more than sufficient vote. This matter passes. Thank you very much. Section 4, we'll move to informational items. This is A is health and safety updates. Superintendent Ward, please.
Yeah, I asked our nursing supervisor to just give the school committee an update so we keep you up to speed relative to the changing dynamics with the nursing situation and our health situation in the schools. Nurse Clancy also worked with our public health commissioner to get some city updates for you, which I think will be illuminating. So I'll turn it over to Nurse Clancy.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Thank you, Nurse Clancy. Thank you, Jeannie, for all your work.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Mayor
Good
Sarno,
evening.
Superintendent Warwick, and school committee members. I'm going to start with a school health update by reviewing the City of Springfield COVID rates. That's right, Paul. Thanks. So for ages 0 to 10 and 11 to 20, because those are our ages with our students are in for the last few weeks. From September 19th to September 25th, ages 0 to 10 had 96 cases and ages 11 to 20 had 101 cases. September 26th to October 2nd, 0 to 10-year-olds had 81 cases and 11 to 20-year-olds had 88 cases. Last week, 0 to 10-year-olds had 78 cases and 11 to 20-year-olds had 70 cases. As you can see, the rates are trending down. It's still important to remember that the dark maroon bars are all children that have tested positive and are not yet eligible for vaccine. Next slide, please. You have previously received from Springfield Public Schools data and emails. It's positive to note that students' COVID cases are trending down like the city. September 16th through September 22nd was the highest week with 107 cases. This week, we're down to 51 cases, a slight increase from last week, but it still shows that we're trending in the right direction. Next slide, please. CIC Health, our current lab provider update. Pro Courier, our signed courier, now provides email confirmation specimen pickup and drop off. PPE arrived for CIC staff and is being distributed to the schools. Polling results now take 24 to 74 hours, but this is the same time frame as last year. Polling supplies have arrived. 4 pallets were delivered to 233 Allen Street last week. They already have been repacked, labeled for the schools and are being delivered this week. I received an email today. 4 more pallets are coming next week. We'll get those out. Next slide, please. This is an update on the CIC Health staff. I work with 3 agencies. We have onboarded a total of 43 staff. Norton has 4 program coordinators, 19 testers. Adecco has 2 program coordinators, 13 testers, and Judge has 1 program coordinator, 1 on-site coordinator, which is really the same as a program coordinator, and 3 testers. All staff have been fingerprinted in Corgi, have their ID badges, and have completed orientation. That's a combination of online training and peer mentoring. This is why Springfield wasn't eligible for any of the National Guard help. Next slide, please. For pool testing, of our 66 schools, 59 have now implemented pool testing. The remaining 7 schools will start pool testing next week. All schools have test and stay and symptomatic testing in place. Next slide. Our vaccine clinics update. The following schools have first dose clinics scheduled in October: SciTech, Putnam, STEM, Renaissance, Van Sickle, Duggan, Kiley, Commerce, Conservatory Arts, South End Middle, Chestnut, and Forest Park. All those schools' second doses are scheduled in November, except Chestnut and Forest Park. Their second dose is December 2nd, and Central second dose is October 20th. The good news, today's clinic at SciTech, which included Putnam and STEM, we administered 100 vaccines. There were 62 COVID vaccines and 38 flu vaccines given to student and staff combined. Azell was able to book a DJ and photo booth for vaccination clinics. This has been a great addition and is creating a positive vaccination experience for our students. Azell is now going to update you on Springfield's education and advertising plan. I just want to say thank you to Azell for your support. Next slide is for Azell.
Thank you, Jeannie, and good evening, everyone. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to go over with everyone what the district has done to brand and market the vaccination clinics taking place in the schools. Beginning in August, we began to bring awareness to the vaccination clinics with 2 robocalls district-wide that went out to all families. And schools continue to make robocalls on a basis that makes sense for them in terms of timing as to when the vaccination clinic is going to take place in their school. And of course, we are available to support schools if they need it, but very rarely do they need support with that. Since before school started, we've had a website page solely dedicated to getting back to school safely. We've renamed it Staying Safe in Schools. It's been a repository for information about COVID protocols, practices, and updates. That page is updated regularly. We've had multiple postings on our Facebook page, and both of those mediums, the website and the Facebook page, contain recently a new video which outlines pool testing procedures featuring one of our very own school nurses and 2 of our students. The vaccination clinics have gotten media coverage on Mass Live, Western Mass News, WWLP, NEPR, WAMC, and the Republican newspaper. Next slide, please. So at the vaccination clinics themselves, we try to create an environment that's going to put students at ease if they should have any anxiety around shots or just anxiety around the whole experience. And we're really trying to brand the entire school-based vaccination experience. We've come up with the slogan, Vax the Field. I shouldn't say we came up with the slogan, I should say Miss Fialo's AP English class at Central came up with the slogan, Vax the Field, which is what the kids call Springfield, the field. So we've had posters made up that are hanging in schools, particularly around the dates when the vaccination clinics are coming. The posters include logos of the entities involved, of course, Springfield Public Schools, Big Y, and the Springfield Department of Health and Human Services. We also have small stickers that we are now passing out to students as they get vaccinated, which say, I got my vax. We have a huge banner, very large banner that we display, again, with the logo, Vax the Field, and the sponsors that have made this possible. We have radio advertising for the general public about the vaccination clinics that are going on in school, texted in a very evergreen way so that if and when vaccinations for ages 5 and up are approved, we can continue to use that same radio advertising for the public. And in November, we will have some billboard advertising throughout the city in 3 locations. Currently, hopefully, you've seen over the past months the parent portal billboard advertising that we've had up for some time, and that will be replaced with the Vax the Field advertising in November.
Thank you, Azelle. I don't know if there's any questions. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Azelle. Thank you, Nurse Clancy.
Thanks, Azelle. Thank you, Jeannie. Great job.
We'll move now to.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Ms. Gresham, I apologize.
I have a question for Nurse.
Nurse Clancy, yes.
If she can go back to the CIC slide. I didn't hear all of that.
Oh, Paul, can you help me with that?
Yes, so thank you for all that you do. I know it's not easy. So now you have more nurses? Is that what I'm hearing?
Okay, they're not my nurses. They're working for CIC Health, and that was the plan when Desi opened us up full in person in order to be able to provide testing in all schools in Massachusetts. They are being onboarded through agencies but it's the CIC Health Lab that they actually are working under. So the only thing they're helping us with is pool testing and test and stay.
Okay, so I know at our last meeting, you mentioned something about training CNAs to do the testing.
Some of your testers tend to be CNAs.
All right. So
But your
then,
program coordinators tend to be nurses. But some of your testers are LPNs and RNs. It's a combination of a wide range of people.
okay, then, so then that alleviates the children testing themselves, correct? Are the students still
Yeah,
testing themselves?
It's supervised testing. The whole testing philosophy is self-swabbing. The only people that get assisted are preschool.
So when you say assistant, can you expand on that a little bit, please?
So there's some preschoolers that are taught and swab their nose excellent without support. And there's some preschool students that need assistance or special needs students in guiding the swab to the beginning of their nose.
So, so since our last meeting, I have gotten numerous of calls from parents who are very upset that their child are testing themselves because they don't feel that it's an accurate result and that the children are doing it accurately. So is there any way that we can not have the children test themselves?
I would have to get back to you with an answer on this. This is a state-run program. The testers don't work for me. And last year, the students swabbed themselves. That's how the program is rolled out. This is not individualized testing. This is pool testing.
Even
And
with
honestly,
pool-
you need to
Sorry.
know that the Binex Now testing that we've always swabbed, that there is updated guidance coming out on that people will be able to self-swab.
So even with the pool testing though, the students are doing it themselves, correct?
Absolutely.
Is there any way we can change that? Because parents are really upset that their child are self-swabbing themselves. And actually, I myself have a little concern about that.
I don't have the ability to change it. I can reach out to the state and see what they say. The program was designed for students to self-swab. And if you have parents that are upset, Zell worked to create a great video that it's a preschooler who is self-swabbing. The nurse prompted her once or twice. I'd have to relook at it. But the other student, I'm not positive the grade, I think it was first grade, had no trouble self-swabbing. When children are taught, they are very capable of swabbing correctly.
Right, right. Superintendent, I hope there's a way that we can alleviate that because parents are really upset about it.
Yeah, it's a
They're
state.
not, the communication is not out there. I don't know if we're being told, we as a school board or school committee body, being told one thing and then something different is happening in the district. I hope that's not happening.
Well,
I'm sorry, Barb, because of the motorcycles, I didn't hear it.
I said, as a school board or myself, I hope that we're being told one thing and then something different is happening in the district. I hope that's not happening.
Definitely not. Nurse Clancy's been making presentations from the beginning about exactly what happens. Remember, this is a state-run program. This is the way the program is being conducted throughout the entire state. We asked for the help like every other district did through the state. This is their program. And when you're talking about pool testing, it's a screening test to see if there might be someone infected. If there's actually any contamination where someone's tested, then they actually do the individual test where someone's actually doing the test. So those are the ones that are more important, that they're absolutely accurate.
Right.
It's just a screening test. So hence the difference in the way they've done it. But this is the way the program is being done in the entire state.
Right, I understand that, and I read through the paperwork that Jeannie had sent us last
right.
week. And there's nothing in there saying that students will be testing themselves.
So we've been putting that out in every venue possible. Lazelle's been putting it out. So we'll keep putting it out if there's any confusion still out there.
Right.
But I think if anyone has a particular concern, if they want to call the nurse at the school to pay attention to it, that would
Well,
be.
Superintendent, I don't think that's important that they got to call the nurse and explain. When they come to us, they're our constituents. If they come to us with a concern, then we bring it to you guys, and then we have to do something about it.
This isn't our program, Barb. This is a state-run program.
But
If we pull out of the program, then we won't have the state support and wouldn't be able to run the program.
I do believe, though, the point that Nurse Clancy has indicated in past presentations that when we were back in school last spring, this is where it's at. And also, if a parent or guardian requests, please, I would like you to assist my child, the nurse will do it. There's an option with, am I correct with that, Nurse Clancy?
You are. There's,
When you stated
for
that a
any
number of
age
times.
child that needs assistance, it's not that they won't help, but the program is designed to self-swab.
Maybe that's the right answer to your question, and thank you, Jeannie, for that. If a parent has a concern about themselves swabbing, if they notify the school nurse, they'll assist them. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, well, then.
I got
Mr. Mayor? Program.
Yeah, I get, Miss Hurst was first, but again, we do this with on the shot with consent, so the parents are and guardians are notified.
That's
I
right.
mean, if you do something
Right.
and the comes home and says, I don't know, I could have done that myself, Mom, Dad, and then I mean, the protocols are there. Let me go to Miss Hurst first, then I'll go to Miss Perez. Miss Hurst, please.
So I think that what wasn't clear last time around was that in perhaps you can provide some clarity. Is it that in order to keep the program that we have in place now, that mandates that they, and perhaps mandates are not the right word, but is it that they have to self-swab in order for us to stay in this program? Like, was that a part of the requirements or the criteria?
The program is designed to self-swab because it's a screening program. The students are very capable of self-swabbing. There's been no injuries during a self-swab. If they're uncomfortable and if it's not done correctly, the nurse can correct them. I think the key is you're a screening program. For us to individually swab every student, you have to take the time, because remember, there's no contact when the student is swabbing, and it's time on learning. Now the nurse would have to doff her PPE and change to swab the next student. The program wasn't designed for an individual to swab individual students for a screening.
Ms. Hurst?
So I think that that's important to know and to understand, right? That in order for this to be sustainable and for us to be able to scale it, considering how large of a district we are, that this is the requirement and these are the reasons why. And last meeting, we didn't have that. We didn't necessarily know that. We just were told, hey, listen, they're supposed to be self-swabbing and there's instructions, or you should have known that. And I think that there's a gap in the communication, because I still have yet to see the addendum that I think it was Vice Chair Collins had suggested, like, what else can we send out to parents to notify them that this is happening? I've not received that. And I know that Azelle just went through all of the communication, which is fantastic, but I have 2 kids in the district and I have yet to receive that. So I do think, to Barbara's point, you do still have folks wondering what is happening. And I do think it is helpful. And I understand we have a nursing shortage. Now that you're mentioning having to take off the PPE to have to test every single kid, the time on learning, like I understand all that, but those aren't things that we were told. We were just told they're self-swabbing. And so if it's a part of the criteria because of A, B, and C, then that's one thing. But I think we need to sort of know, like, what's the whole landscape? That would be really helpful. And I think it would help to sort of ease folks' anxiety, and it would feel transparent.
Well, I tried to be transparent when I put the information out because it's a state-run program. They didn't get into that level of detail. And Azelle and I worked to put the video and information on the website. And if you're asking that we send the information home with every student, is that what you're asking for?
So, I know that could be a potential big lift. And I know that building principals have a lot happening, but the reality is that I feel like I'm a pretty engaged parent, and I had no idea that there had already been a video. So I do think that it would be helpful, even if it's a Connect Ed or a robocall that says, hey, check our website for an instructional video on how students are testing themselves. That would be really helpful. Because I think that what I've taken from it is that you all heard our concerns at the last meeting and you went back and you did all this work to address them, but we don't know it. And if we don't know it, then it's hard for us to share it with our constituents. And if we don't know it as a body, then imagine all the parents and or caregivers who don't know it. So I'm not saying that it's incumbent upon you, Jeannie, to figure out how to get it out to everybody, or even Azelle. Maybe it's a collective effort and there's multiple strategies on how to get that information out to folks.
I appreciate that. And we will take that back.
I think Azelle's our expert in communication. So, let us regroup with Azelle and find ways to get more information out for parents. We'll take that on again.
We actually have, with every robocall, directed people to the website where information continues to be updated. And so I guess the assumption on our end was that people understood that that webpage is a repository for updates. That's what it's meant for. So perhaps that message isn't clear. It comes at the very end of a robocall. Maybe people don't listen through to the end, or maybe it gets lost in translation somewhere. But I think that if people understand that that there is a page that's been dedicated since before school began for updated information, then Denise, I think you're right. That would be a great resource for people just to continually go back to get updates.
Yeah. Just a gentle reminder that this page still exists and that there's new information all the time.
And there's a lot of moving parts with all of this, so I understand there's some confusion. So thank you, Azelle. If we can revisit that and give yet another reminder on that, I think it would be helpful because this is complicated. Thank you so much.
And I just want to add really quickly that I also think it's important because I've gotten some calls too, or after that last meeting that we had. And I had parents who said, no, they're not self-swabbing at my kid's school. The nurse is doing it. And then you had parents who were like, oh, my kids are self-swabbing. So just the consistency across the district, I think, is important. And maybe it is those parents who are calling and saying, hey, I have an issue with my kids self-swabbing themselves. But as soon as I walked out of these chambers last week, I had a message from a dad who said, no, the nurse is doing all of our kids self-swabbing. And then you had others reporting that no kids were self-swabbing.
So we'll get it out again. Yeah, it is complicated because there's a lot of different testing too. So depending on the different types of testing, it's the pool testing where they're self-swabbing. So we'll get it out again. Thank you, Azell. You've been great with getting
Mr. Mayor?
information out. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Ms. Perez. Thank you as well. Ms. Perez, thank you for your patience.
Yes, you know what? I was the one who brought it up last month. The concern because of numerous calls that I had. There was an incident, I'm not at liberty to say, and then I blessed it out. I think that although the department, I'm gonna be in a professional matter, tells us we need to do this, we need to take in consideration the community as well, because we sitting here, we represent our constituents. And I think at no given point in the concern has been, and how could we do some prevention? No given point, according to the calls that I had received last month, parents were not aware that the students was self-swabbing themselves. So at the last meeting, I think that we were agreeable to see how specifically in the Latino community, how we gonna filter out this information. In all honesty, I thought that we were gonna come back, reconvene in a committee, whatever the committee is applied to, look at this issue and come back and get some satisfaction to the community. Because all honesty, most of the parents that called me, they were not aware until last month that we had this conversation. So it's still a concern in the community, and I'm being very transparent. I would have been upset as a parent having my child tested, giving consent for the testing, but not having the policies and procedure in place, how it was going to transpire. So I think that's what we're looking from the community. How could we inform the community? Because unfortunately, the state tells us, and we have to follow the pattern, but we on the front line are the ones that are getting all the calls and all the upset from the parent. So we need to give some feedback to the community. No, we are addressing the issue. And that's where I stand with this, because it's unfair just to say the state is telling us, and in the interim, we have the community just blasting at us because we are on the front line. And I think my recommendation is we honestly, in the safety committee and any committee that we could apply it, we need to look at this. And sometimes you learn where did you fail and how we're going to make it better. There was a very serious issue, and I was last month I reflected that this student should have not been self-swab himself, because there's other medical conditions that exist that we don't know about, and because it's done in the public school, we are taking the responsibility. Although the state is the one who's dictating that we need to do this self-swab by the student. So I'm just pleading to be a subcommittee, but I would like to see satisfaction that satisfies the community when it comes to this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perez. Thank you.
I have one more question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Ms. Gresham. Sure.
I know that the governor had said that he will be, the National Guard will be able to help with testing. Is that going to happen for our district? Superintendent?
No, because of all the help we've been given from CIC, they didn't send the National Guard in here because we have enough staff to implement the present program now.
So they won't be helping our district?
They're only going to districts that CIC wasn't able to get staff in yet. There are some districts that have had no help at all yet and hence haven't been able to implement the program. That's where they're putting the National Guard in.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Go
ahead, Ms. Hurst. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Considering the shortage, has there been any turnover with CIC? Are we good to go and we feel like this is like a stable group, or we're going to be able to replenish? Should we lose folks? I think my ultimate question is, if for some reason we find ourselves short-staffed and there is talk about the National Guard, can we have that conversation before that decision was to get made?
Yeah, we would definitely bring you back and let you know that the National Guard are now coming in for X reason. I don't see that right now because the last meetings we sat in, they said no for Springfield because, again, we have the CIC help. But if that falls through, then, but they've staffed up and really are filling everything pretty well. So I don't see that. But if that were to come, we would definitely get you that information.
And again, if the guard, if my understanding's out there, they're not gonna swab either. They're there to give
No.
assistance. So I'm just
No.
be clarifying, the guard would be there to give assistance. They're usually from the medical background, majority, and they would not be, doing the swabbing either unless a parent asked for their child to be swabbed. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, and thank you, Nurse Clancy. Thank you, Azell.
Thank you, Jeannie and Azell. You guys have been absolutely fabulous. We appreciate it.
We'll now move to B. It's a 2020-2021 year in review data presentation. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to go through the data as we do every year and project it for you. But we're going to give you a complete pack of all the data when we're finished. So just to go through the package with you now, we're projecting it up in front of you here. As we go through, if we can go through to the next page, you'll see as we always go back to our strategic plan, that all of our key goals were reflected in our strategic plan. We're working, as you know, on our new strategic plan. This is a presentation of the present strategic plan. In the next slide, our data department put a new type of slide to kind of give a demonstration of the district and kind of a lot of the different variables. We're up to 70 different school entities, 4 specialty schools now, 3 life schools and a transitions academy. We have 9 alternative programs in a virtual school. There'd been some emergency of some new schools in the empowerment zone as well. So we're the second largest district in New England. Last year, 24,232 students. On the right of that, you can see the demographic breakouts of our students. And then on the far right, you can see the economically disadvantaged, the high needs, the first language not English, and the students with disabilities. You can see that Springfield SPS has a lot higher percentages in all those categories than does the state. Like economically disadvantaged, we're 81.8%. The state's 36.6%. That 81.8% is the highest percent in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. High needs 86.5 as opposed to 51 in the state. First language, not English, 29.8 as opposed to 23.4 in the state. And students with disabilities, 24.7%, 18.7 across the rest of the Commonwealth. We show our budget numbers going across the bottom. Total staff, 4,632, the budget number 691. With the increase in the hiring, we're at a 12-to-1 student per teacher ratio due to the Student Opportunity Act and some of the other funding sources. You see the breakout underneath the breakout of students, you see our staff breakout. So you see that obviously why our hiring piece is a priority with the diverse hiring is that our staff doesn't reflect our student population. We've done a lot of work on that, but obviously we have more work to do, but we're doing a lot better than the rest of Massachusetts on that. And we're continuing to make progress in that field. The next slide is overall student attendance. Overall student attendance, if you compare on the left, it shows overall in the state, and then underneath in SPS, you can see we narrowed the gap considerably over the years, improving our attendance and coming closer to the state. But this past year, we slipped down to 92.3. We don't have the state attendance for this past year. They haven't given it to us yet. They slipped the year before, and my sense is they slipped again. You can see over the years, our increase, really a lot of it occurred at the high school level, where our increase was pretty consistent, that bottom line going across on the right. And that's what helped our attendance. So we've narrowed the gap with the state. We'll see what their new number is. I know it's going to be lower due to the pandemic. The next slide on attendance was something that Paul and his team came up with to compare remote to in-person attendance. So last year, most of the year we were in remote. You can see how the attendance was running higher. When we went in person, the in-person attendance dipped a little bit towards the end of the year due to all the challenges associated with that, hence the 92.3% overall attendance. Chronic absenteeism, on the next slide, you can see as you go on the left, it shows the trend from 12 to 21. The chronic absenteeism was heading down, but with the pandemic, the chronic absenteeism is up now to 24.5%. And you can see by level. And you know, we've always talked about this and looked at it every year, but this is a really good slide on the breakout showing you the 29.6% at the pre-K level. Now, some of that is our half-day program, and we think as we go towards full day, that attendance will pick up. But you know, chronic attendance is a key issue during the pandemic everywhere in the Commonwealth. Out-of-school suspensions, you can see over the years what we've done with out-of-school suspensions. And 2019 is last year with all of our students, and you can see they're a fraction of what they once were. The last 2 years in the remote situation, as expected, those naturally went down. The number of arrests, same profile, great decline over the years. 2019 was the last year the kids were in for the full year, but you can see it's a small fraction, you know, just above 10% of what they used to be. So a significant decline. Bullying incidents, same profile as you go across from left to right, great decrease. The last year we were in full 63, down from 184. So again, a fraction, it's a third of what they once were. The next slides are all going to have to do with Mcas. And as you know, last year, Mcas, and we talked about this, was a pretty significant debate, whether we give Mcas or don't give Mcas. And the state made the decision to go ahead with giving the Mcas. So our kids were taking the Mcas as we were returning them to school last year, which created a problem for us and everyone else in the state. So it's the first one we gave during the COVID-19 pandemic. For grades 3 to 8, the changes were the test was abbreviated and they did 1 session as opposed to 2 in each subject. And the students learning remotely in grades 3 to 8 were allowed to take the test remotely with monitoring. For grade 10, the test remained a 2-session test and all testing was in school. The state did not allow us to test remotely. Consequently, the percentage of kids taking the test were down. We opened it up for everyone who wanted to come in, but we had 69% of our kids in grade 10 take the test in ELA and 68% in math. Science results were limited to grade 5, all test takers, and 8 in-person test takers only. Student growth calculations, obviously trying to show student growth from before pandemic to a pandemic situation. It really dramatically changed the student growth measure, which was hinged on 50 in the past. So the student growth piece was thrown way off by this. So, you know, they were trying to use a historical peer academic group, which was really hard. So where it used to be a 50 average, they show in the average growth now at 35.8 in the state and 30.4 in math. So the student growth was the most significantly, of all the metrics influenced by this and hard to deal with. As we go through the slides on Mcas and scaled score, the next slide is the most comprehensive because it's each school has a calculation for every student and it shows every student. We're going to go through the scaled score, but we're going to give you the information on what the student growth looked like and then the meeting and exceeding expectations on the test. But in the scaled score piece, the way we've organized these slides, on the left side, we're showing the SPS without the ZEP, the empowerment zone, the empowerment zone results, comparable other urban school districts. We looked at the 6 districts that most closely compare with us, and then the state average. And then to the right, we showed what occurred. So as you follow it across, SPS without ZEP, you can see that we went down 6 points. The ZEP group of schools went down 6.3. Other urban districts went down 6.8. and the state minus 4.7. So pretty comparable results due to the pandemic. And that was why a lot of people were arguing, was it a good year to even give an MCAS test? And what did you expect to get out of it? But as you can see that our overall results with SPS with NOZEP was higher than the other urban districts, but we had a dip just like everybody else did. ELA grade 10, on the other hand, our score went up, and our score increased 1.4. SPS NOZEP. The ZEP zone went up 0.9. Other urban districts, like urban districts, were a minus 2.5, and the state went up 1.1. So our grade 10 results, which we didn't expect, actually went up. But remember, the participation rates weren't as significant as they were in previous years. The next slide, what we're trying to show here is Springfield against like comparable urban districts. So the districts that have the next highest level of poverty to us, we have the highest level of poverty. And you can see our overall scaled score to the left of 486.9 in grades 3 to 8, the highest of all the other comparable urban districts. And then to the right in grade 10, our overall score of 490.9, again, higher than all the other urban districts. Math, average scaled scores, and ours were like the state. The biggest hit across was in math. It's so skills-based that the different type of instruction that you can give during a pandemic, we had a slip, and it was a pretty significant slip across the state and other urban districts. So you can see how in SPS, we had the dip there, the SPS NOZEP, everyone had the dip going across, including the other urban districts. Our overall score stayed above that. So SPS without a ZEP score, we had minus 12.5. The ZEP, which has grades 6 to 8, minus 7.8. Other urban districts, minus 12.1. And the state, minus 9.5. So you can see the profile in Springfield relative to the slippage mirrored the state and what occurred everywhere else. Grade 10, again, was a different picture. The grade 10 results, we had a little slip of 3.4. The ZEP zone went down 4.1. Other urban districts went down minus 6.9, and the state went down minus 4.5. So the profile and the pattern you see is consistent with what occurred everywhere across the state. Then to show you overall math, again with comparable districts, you can see where we scored at 475.3 in grades 3 to 8. We were third highest of the comparable schools. And at 483 in grade 10, we were the highest of all the comparable districts. Science, really a very similar profile. We were scoring, a little higher to begin with and had a little bigger dip than some of the other groups, but very, very similar profile and that you see across the state. And that's grades 5 and 8 for the groups that took the test. The science overall, again, as compared to other urban districts, we scored the third highest of the comparable districts in science. This profile shows you what occurred across the grade levels. And the pattern is very, very similar to the pattern that has occurred other years. Our third, fourth, and fifth grade, you can see some slippage there, as you can see, are higher than our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade scores. And left, you have SPS without the ZEP zone included. And then the results go higher again in grade 10. ZEP had the same profile. You can see grade 5, and this has been consistent throughout the years, 3, 4, and 5 are higher than 6, 7, and 8, pretty significantly. But then you see that bump back up in grade 10. So the slip you see is it was pretty consistent across the state. The pattern changed for math a little bit. In math, in grade 3 and 4, there was more of a dip. Again, very, very skills-based, and obviously the lack of in-person instruction affected us. Pulled up in grade 5, but then that dip down into the grade 6 to 8 occurred like it has in the pattern. And again, similar dips from the year before, I mean, in 19 when we tested live. You can see grade 10 pop up again, which is the pattern that we've had for a number of years. Then when you get into the demographic breakouts, which we have next, and the demographic breakouts had the same pattern, we got some slippage, but some things that are noteworthy. The blue columns on the left are Springfield, the green columns are the rest of the state. So showing you in 19 and 21. So the first column is 19, the next is 21. You can see that for our African-American students in 19, we not only closed the gap with the state, we're exceeding the state average, which was pretty significant. We had a dip there, we were higher, we had a dip, the state had a dip. You can see for our Hispanic students, where at one point we were way under the state, we were exceeding the state in 19 when we took the test live. We're still exceeding the state, but we took a dip as the state did. And going across in the EL, we had really closed the gap in all of the groups. We had some slippage this year like everyone else did. That same pattern goes across in ELA for grade, when you get into the grade 10 piece, you can see how there had been some growth, and then we didn't have the slippage in grade 10, just like in the other groups, because grade 10 test, the results held. So, our group, our African-American group only slipped -0.2. Overall, we were 1.4. You can see some slippage. And again, where you see EL and former EL, you see more slippage. We had made great bounds towards coming close to the state average. We decreased a little bit during the pandemic. And of course, the lack of direct instruction for students who need that support wasn't there. Math, grade 3 to 8, again, same pattern as regular ed. We had the slippage, but you can see we had really tightened that gap up with the state. We were way behind the state at one point. We were almost up to the state for African American and Hispanic Latino subgroup. EL, we really had narrowed the gap greatly and come up a long way, and sped across similar profile. But again, the lack of direct instruction for those groups, like all the other groups, were impacted, but those kids took a bigger impact. And the average scaled score by group grade 10, remember the grade 10 results, we held more firm. You can see less slippage there, and it goes across through the subgroups. But again, grade 10, our results really held more firmly, and it held more firmly across the subgroups. Science, similar profile across the different demographics. You can see that we were scoring significantly above the state with our African-American group. We were way behind that at one time. And you can see for our Hispanic Latino group, we were way above the state. But we had similar slips in profile during this last administration of the test. So with Mcas, the profile was ELA was stronger than math in Springfield and in the state. We had some losses. We compared favorably to other urban groups, but now we're giving all of our assessments and looking at accelerating instruction in the classroom now that we have the kids back live, and using all of our SOMA money to put interventions in place to deal with that learning loss, which we knew was going to occur during this time. And that's the focus through the entire Commonwealth. And I think giving all of our SOA money to the schools so they can design programs to look at this data, and the profile is different for every student, and really design individualized programs to meet those kids' needs so we can catch them up and deal with the learning loss that we knew would occur during the pandemic. The next slide, as we move on from MCAS, goes back to our 4-year cohort graduation rate. And this slide shows from 2006 up to 2020. Remember, we don't get the results for 21 till later in the year. You usually get them in February. But you can see the great growth over the years from 51.2 in 2006 to 77. And that's the best improvement in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The next slide, I think, is even more important because it shows the profile across all of our groups. So it shows you how we narrowed the gap with the state in the column to the left in the group that reflects the entire population. You can see that the last year for our African-American population, as we move forward, SPS is on the bottom, and then the SPS 12 and SPS 20. You can see, and the state is across the top. So as you compared from 12 to 20, we were way off in African-American population. Actually, in 20, we were actually exceeded the state, 83.4, to the state being 83.1. And that's with the highest poverty rate in the state. So that's really incredible. You can see how we narrowed the gap, Hispanic Latino, almost catching up to the state, where we were down at 48.1 in 2012. And similar, English language learners was probably our biggest growth, where we're at 34.8, and the state was 61.1 in 12. In 20, we're 70.4, and the state is 68.3. We exceeded the state average. We eliminated the gap and exceeded it. So students with disabilities, you can see progress towards that gap. So on the graduation end, the good news was reflected across all of our demographic and breakout groups. By school, the graduation rate as you go across, you can see it citywide. In 2012, it was 56.6%. You can see the 77%. Some of our major schools, some of the gains, just to call them out, Central went from 74.6 to 88.4%. So our comprehensive high schools had significant increases. Putnam 71.1% to 97.6%. And SciTech, which was at 39.9%, 85.4%. So our comprehensive schools made significant gains. Some of our alternative schools, because they were taking all the at-risk students, you can see those rates are lower, and you'd expect them to be lower, because most alternative kids aren't going to graduate within 4 years anyway. But the gains were noteworthy. Then when you get into the dropout news, the news was very positive also. You can see the dropout rate, the significant numbers of dropouts, and that's by student going back to 910 to present. So going from 737 down to 212. You can see that reflected in the next table, where the overall rate went from 10 in the top to 3% in Springfield. And then again, some of the comprehensive schools, 7.7 at Central down to 1.6%. Commerce 13.6 down to 4%. Putnam 5.1 down to 0.8%. And SciTech 11.6 to 2%. So really positive experiences. Again, the alternative schools with more students that are at risk, we'd expect to have a different profile. Then the overall district in review, which we have on the next slide, shows a picture of where we're at, where we were at in 12 and where we're at the end of last year, except for the graduation dropout. Again, we don't have past year's statistics. They go back to 20. So you can see positive growth in all of the different columns. The student attendance, if you go back, positive growth, graduation dropout, tremendously positive. The one piece where we had a slip last year was advanced placement qualifying score. It was very, very difficult, I think, for the kids to take those advanced placement exams. So we had a slip there down to 208 kids with a qualifying score. But again, I think that was experienced throughout the state and at Springfield. That was a very difficult situation for the kids. You can see staff attendance is up in every area, and the school climate and culture, which we went through earlier, significantly up in every area. We put an appendix together to show you the meets and exceeds expectations for all the different groups and the student growth percentile. Again, the student growth percentile is really hard to figure out. Paul's team also, in addition to sending you this entire package, is going to show you the results from every school that shows scaled score, student growth percentile, and meets and exceeds expectations. So we're going to send all those out to you to review. The other two slides, the meets and exceeds, of course, and the student growth, similar pattern as the scaled score, which is the most comprehensive. So that concludes the presentation here.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Any questions or comments?
I just have a
Ms.
question.
Ms.
Will we
Gressler?
be able to get a copy of this?
Yeah, we're going to send an entire copy out to you. Absolutely.
You're gonna mail it out, right? Rather than email it? Can you mail it out?
We can email it. We can mail it. We'll do
Mail. I prefer mine. to
You
be
want
mailed.
mail?
Yes, please.
So why don't we do both? Does everyone, is comfortable email or mail?
I'm fine with email. I'd like a hard copy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe what we can do, Paul and Patty, is let's do both for everyone. That way we're sure everyone's going to get it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Yes, Ms. Hurst, yeah.
On the very first slide, Superintendent, there was a box at the bottom of the right-hand corner, and it said staff, 33% Springfield, 12% Mass. What was that?
Staff diversity.
Oh, meaning that we have 33%.
We're
diverse staff
33%.
Versus 12%.
For
The rest
state.
of Massachusetts is still at
Got it.
12%.
Okay.
And that's the EPIMS report. The numbers are actually higher than that. That's just what we have in EPIMS. We'll get you the comprehensive numbers as well later in the year when we calculate.
I have a question.
Ms. Naylor, please.
The question that I have is around the chronic absenteeism. Do we have a breakdown yet of how many of those chronic absences are related to COVID versus general absences?
So the chronic absences are just reflections of percentiles. So did they go way up during the pandemic? Yes. Were some of them caused by COVID? Absolutely.
So
Do we
are they-
have, so by student, we would know that information. And so when the schools intervene with the families, yes, they would know that information.
Okay,
Yeah.
but overall, we don't have a data report or we're not tracking yet which of those absences are because of COVID. I guess the question is, and I know the state is not mandating us to do this, so I know what I'm asking is not, requirement from DESE, but I guess for our understanding, it would be helpful to know how much the pandemic is affecting certain things, right? So we want to put resources in place, of course, to make sure kids are going to school, but we also want to know if there's certain things that are causing kids to have to be out of school. So I know there were some things that I brought up to you this past week, which was helpful in getting a really good understanding of how can I then go back and advocate with my families and with our advocates to really say, you need to inform your parents that they have to sign off and allow the district to be able to test your kids at school. That we also need to have parents really thinking about whether or not they're going to get their kids vaccinated and knowing that there are vaccine clinics in the schools to help with that. Because if we can do some of those things, it can mitigate as much as possible how many kids we see end up with COVID symptoms, which can then lead to some of these cases where we're seeing chronic absenteeism. So from my understanding of it, it's helpful to be able to circle back to the community and say, hey, here's some educational points that we can focus on to really help decrease as much as possible those numbers. But if most of those numbers are normal numbers that don't have anything to do with COVID, for example, then that's a different conversation that I'm having when I'm talking to folks in the community.
So we follow the state calculation for chronic absences. So we follow that because that's one of the key indicators that they use to track schools. So we track it like the state does, but then we have the information on each student. And when you're intervening with a family, for example, during the pandemic, was there a huge, significant increase in chronic attendance, chronic absence across Springfield and across the entire Commonwealth? Absolutely. Due to a host of different factors.
Right.
Now, for each student, we know what was it? Was it a pandemic induced or did we actually have a COVID case?
Okay.
And we would know now when the kids were working remotely, we didn't have as good a track on that as we do presently, but we still were intervening. Our nurses were contacting and that kind of thing. So we can get some more information on that, how much of it was due to COVID. But for our interventions with the students, the whole reason you track this data is so then each school with their attendance team goes to make home visits and work with parents. If you see a student that hit chronic absence, but it was actually due to COVID, you're not going to make a home visit to deal with the parent because the kid dropped off remotely or just isn't attending regularly since we came back. It's a whole different plan of action. And that's individualized, and they have that data at the school. We can track some due to COVID, but we don't have that. But every school has it.
Now, in regards to those kids that are missing school because of justifiably us trying to keep everybody safe, are there any conversations happening at the DESE state level around some type of supplementary learning for kids who are missing a substantial amount of school because of legitimate reasons, like they have to quarantine or like they may have COVID and they need to be home? Have you heard anything? I know we have the virtual school option for kids who have chosen that. We're at a point right now where we don't have a hybrid option for many reasons, but there's still kids that are falling through the cracks.
So the kids that are out, we're using Schoology and having the staff reach out. And we've authorized every school, we've given them extra money to have teachers reach out to follow through and work through the assignments with Schoology. So that's the answer from every school, and they have been given extra money to pay staff to put in extra time to reach out to those families and do the assignments through the learning platform that we put in place. So that's how we're organizing that. And that's how it's been organized through the state.
Thank you.
Ms. Hurst, please.
To just take it a step further from what Ms. Neerla was asking, I'm wondering, are we being sensitive or understanding that we might have to define absenteeism or chronic absenteeism a bit differently? Because maybe it's not necessarily the student who has COVID, but if they're a parent or their caregiver, and depending upon how old they are, as a parent who had COVID, I was not in anyone's shape to help and or assist. And we were remote at the time. So I'm wondering, kids sometimes, are secondarily affected by the fact that
No question about it.
parent or caregiver. So I guess I'm wondering what happened.
So again,
looking at that.
So that when you get the data for a family, you take a look at it, a counselor and a team would look at it, and the attendance team, and you'd intervene to support the family. So if you knew it was COVID induced, then you're not going to intervene with a DCF support or any of those other supports. It's not applicable here. It was caused by COVID. And you just understand that the state calculating chronic absenteeism the same way as they did before, naturally everyone's rate's going to go up due to this situation. It's just, and it has across the entire
So we're looking
state.
at the whole
So
family unit.
you've got to look at the family unit, and then how do we support the family? And that's what it's all about. So at the school level, what you do with this data, we knew this was going to track upward. We're in the middle of a pandemic. It was a significant situation. It tracked up across the state. It tracked up across Springfield. The most important thing is you put supports in place for the family. And where there's other agencies we'd work with, it would be probably getting a clinical support in to help a family if they're going through some trauma after having COVID, as opposed to a DCF support if someone just wasn't coming to school. So it's an individual approach based on the family, and you have to take that individual approach. And it's about supporting the family. And it's about a recovery piece now, academically, but also socially, emotionally. What are we putting in place to help those families? Is it clinical services? What kind of services are a fit? And that's an individual case-by-case basis. And that's what the schools are working on.
Any other questions or comments on the superintendent's report? Okay, hearing none, we'll now move to reports of standing committees. Student relation, parent concerns, Ms. Gresham.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Building and Maintenance Committee, Vice Chair Collins.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Legislative Contracts Committee, Ms. Perez.
No report at this time.
Thank you. Curriculum and Programs Committee, Ms. Hurst, please.
No report at this time.
Thank you. Budget and Finance Committee, Vice Chair Collins.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Vocational Education Committee, it's Attorney Murphy. He had to leave for a family issue, family event. G, and he reported out earlier during the meeting. Technology Committee, Ms. Naylor, please.
No report, sir.
Thank you. School Safety Committee, Ms. Gresham.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Special Subcommittee Staff Demographics, Ms. Perez, please.
No report at this time, Mr.
Thank you very much. A report from the student representative of the school committee, that's Nathaniel Claudio of Putnam Vocational Technical Academy, if Nathaniel is still on and would like to.
I am still here. I'm having a little.
Thank you very
having
much
a
for hanging in there,
problem.
Nathaniel. Nate, we appreciate that. If you have any comments you'd like to make, young man?
I do not.
Okay, thank you very much, Nate, but thank you for hanging in there. We appreciate that.
No problem.
Report of the superintendent. Superintendent Warwick?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, as I said at some previous meetings, I've been really trying to get around to the schools and have been so impressed by the efforts of our staff out in the schools. They have taken this situation and really dealt with it admirably and figured out all the logistics it takes to get our kids back, get them back safely, but then really take a good look, do some of our formative tests, see where the kids are at, and put in plans to intervene academically or social emotionally with each family so that we can deal with the learning loss that was associated with this. I've been to 25 schools and I've made 34 visits. I also watched the logistics associated with dealing with school opening, the social distancing, trying to do the lunch breakfast to all of our kids, making sure they all get the lunch and breakfast, and then also socially distance during that endeavor. And I was at Central the other day and watched them organize around it. And I've been in some of the other high schools where they're talking about 2,100 students and organize how to get lunches to all the classrooms, the overflow in the cafeteria, making sure everyone gets a lunch and keep socially distanced so that we adhere to those pieces. Because as Jeannie said earlier, that it's so important that we adhere to the protocols put in place. Because in schools where they're adhering to mask protocols and the social distancing protocols, kids are 3.5 times less likely to get COVID. So making sure we follow the protocols, but get them back in live because they need the live instruction is paramount. And our schools have just done a tremendous job of that. I'm so impressed. The principals, the teachers, the paras, everyone across the schools have done a great job. Our virtual school update, we're up to 565 students. And the principals were able to fully staff the virtual school. And staffing, as you've all read, is quite an issue across every segment, of employers, but across the school departments in the state and across the country, it's an issue. But they were able to take it from nothing up to full staffing, and it did an absolutely great job. And we're working with them to make sure that we're keeping abreast. But all the technological pieces we put in place while we were virtual taught us a lot of lessons to deliver at the virtual school. So that's off to a very good start. Another really big piece of news that broke this week, and I know it's something we've been working at since we built our new vocational high school, but when we built it on Ted Plum Field. And we lost our second stadium in the city. And I think that's so big for the city to have this second facility that we're going to be able to use as well as Central. And to have the second field at a place like Duggan that's mid-city, a great location, is something that I think is very important. And to name it Ted Plum Field, in honor of the person that the field at Trade High School, I think was important to remember the historical piece of that and to honor that commitment. It was especially important for me because my dad played football for Ted Plum when he went to Trade High School. So I just thought it was neat. But I think having that second field is going to be so important to us, and have really a second state-of-the-art field, because we have a lot of athletic programs, and trying to use the fields at Central and everywhere else. This will give us a second state-of-the-art field so we can really keep expanding our athletic programs. So just want to thank you, Mayor, for taking that on for us. And we made that commitment. I don't, when we actually took the field at Putnam, and you stayed with it, and we so appreciate it. And there's some grants that you got that were great. So
thank you, Superintendent Warwick. A city our size deserves and needs that type of facility, and we did it through Central High School, and it's a first-class field and stadium there. It is used a lot, and not only by our city of Springfield residents and students and staff, but it's used around the area. And we've been able to, through grants, and I thank on Congressman Neal on the federal level and Governor Baker on the state level, and on bond proceeds, unexpended bond proceeds, and also other funding. We're looking to get the state-of-the-art field there and the park area. And I had given my word also to Gary Brown, the legendary sports columnist for the Republican. As you stated, that field was taken away from legendary coach Ted Plum. And every other month, Mr. Brown will reach out to me and say, Mayor, Don, when are you going to do the field? And it's going to be called Ted Plum. We're going to follow through with that. And the location was key. I mean, it's really in the central part of the city. And I think it'll be beneficial to all our student athletes and to the youth and to all the residents of the city of Springfield. And we deserve it for a city our size. And I'm glad that we're going to be able to pursue it and get it done. And it will enhance all the great work, academic work that's already going on at Duggan Academy too. So that's good news for all of us. And I'm glad we're able to do it. Thank you, Superintendent.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes,
One
Ms.
question for Superintendent. So some of the schools are utilizing the cafeteria, correct?
Schools are using it for overflow when they need it. They're trying to eat in the classrooms where they can. We can't put large groups in the cafeteria. We've got to keep them separated.
Right.
But so if schools need to use the cafeteria for overflow, all those schools are using their rooms and the cafeteria as well. But again, keeping the socially distancing in mind. So depending on the need, like Central has to do both. We have 2,100 students there, so they can't have them all stay in the classrooms and keep them apart. So they're using the cafeteria in addition to the classrooms. So they're having some kids eat in the cafeteria and they're delivering the lunches to the classrooms as well.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Tad has decided that he has to help with the lunches and he runs around the building. I don't call it walking. It's more like a run. Well, he has now decided he can't get around fast enough to supervise the lunches. He has a bike and he's going around the floors as they're eating in the room on a bike. The kids are getting a huge kick out of it, but allows him to get to all the classes. And a lot of our kids are helping deliver the lunches. Their operation to get the lunches to everyone was the logistics and the work of the staff. And then we had again the kids helping. They have it all working, and it logistically you'd say that's impossible, but they've found a way to do it in all of our schools. At Putnam, again, it was a very different kind of organization, using shops and then using the cafeteria. Every school came up with something that made sense for their schools, but again, kept the kids at safe distances, because what we don't want to do, all the data in the city is moving in the right direction, and the schools it's moving in the right directions. We don't want to go backwards. We've got to adhere to those protocols, and they're doing that.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham.
I have just,
If you're done, Ms.
I'm
Gresham.
all set. I'm all set. Thank you.
I have just one
Ms. Hurst,
question.
please.
Superintendent, where are the virtual school staff out of?
We're working right now out of the old Balliet Middle School, and our alternative programs moved down to Lincoln. We put over $1 million into Lincoln this summer and got that upgraded for those alternative programs. And we combined our alternative middle school and our public day middle school there, freeing Balliet up for a live site for those programs for this year. As we got going, we thought it was important to have the staff in the same location so we could provide the appropriate professional development and so on. Down the road, that Balliet school is going to be used for preschool as we go to full day preschool throughout the city. And we're going to be able to get that done for next year. Probably looking at virtual school. We're thinking about lease space at first, but the more we look at the other virtual schools, we'll probably have the staff working from home.
Got it.
But for this year, we knew they needed to be together.
I just have a quick question. When
Ms.
is the
Naylor?
field going to be ready? The field at Duggan, when is that going to be
It's
ready?
probably going to be a couple of years. We're going to
Okay.
hopefully as quick as possible to do the prep work. And this, unlike Central, where Central, we already had the foundation there. this is gonna cost me an extra 2 million, so it's like a $4 million. Plus, we're doing the surrounding area of Duggan. In Central, we have a very generous business community. I will, reach out again to see what we can get there. But now you're talking about a full field, and it's going to be a artificial turf. That's why I'm putting the extra money. That is the right way to go. The other grant was for grass, but the upkeep of that's why we had to move Central so it can be used. Stands, lighting. This will be a lit field. So that tax on so it'll be an extra $2 million to get it. Walking, we're gonna have track, walking areas for residents and everything. We're gonna try to do it like we did with Central, do it the right way.
With the use we have, you need the field turf. If you try to go with natural grass, with the heavy use we have, it wouldn't hold up. The field turf is the way to go. Very expensive.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a good thing. I'm happy that I was able to tell people that we were in process of doing this, but I didn't have a date. But I said, I know it's coming up at some point in the next few years, because you're right. It is difficult for all of our other schools who have football programs and stuff like
Well,
that.
I want, with Pat Sullivan, my director of facilities and parks, and TJ Plant, we've been very aggressive in going after the grants and other funding and private. Now, to get this thing going and making the final commitment on the city side to get it done, we need it. I mean, we need it for a city our size, and it's going to be a plus. And I think, again, that combination at Hook, if you have our young men or women, excelling on the field, it's also Hook for them to excel in the classroom too. And we have many student athletes who have gone on. I mean, Central's a great case. To great Division I schools or other collegiate schools, parlaying their sports talents and their academic talents, and many of them getting full boats to school, which gives them opportunity down the road. So this youth sports or youth or athletics always been near and dear to my heart. So I said, where are we? Here's the gap. Make the commitment from the city side. Let's get this thing done and move forward. So. It's good. It's good for all of us. It's good. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Perez.
I just want to comment, while listening at Superintendent Warwick and seeing all the logistics and how the teachers have strategized around this COVID-19, I have to take my hat because it's not simple. Having 400, 300 students and trying to strategize how we're going to keep them safe. Honestly, I take my hat off to the staff and kudos to them because, it's not as easy as it says, you know what I'm saying? And I have seen it at Lincoln. Actually, I've been going to Lincoln as a parent, dropping off, and I have to say they do a dynamic job. So, kudos to you guys.
Thank you. I'm very proud of our staff. They've really been committed to this. They know our kids need it. And they've really committed to do whatever it takes to make sure it works. And it's working because of them.
Even when times are good and not facing challenging times, all of us cannot make everybody happy.
Right.
These have been unprecedented and surreal times. We didn't stand up and wave the white flag that we're giving up. We're moving forward. We've done some good things very, very well. We learned from missteps or mistakes about communication, but I think it was paramount that we had to get our kids back in the school, we'll beat this COVID-19. Get tested, get vaccinated, and hopefully soon we can get rid of these masks too. But we'll move forward.
And I think the way forward, Jeannie alluded to this earlier, and Commissioner Carlton's been pushing this. It's pushing the vax.
The vax,
as well as the mask. The vax is the long way forward. I think we vaccinated 50 at Commerce today. So we're working on it every day in school with kids who sign the permission slips, getting the vaccination rates up, because that'll make a big long-term impact for us. It'll certainly make the job more doable. So we're working hard on that. And there's progress being made on the vax for the younger students too. It's not approved yet, but I think it'll be approved shortly. And that'll be how can we help facilitate, help parents by giving it in school, which Nurse Clancy and her team have just done a great job with the high schools. So we're trying to move those vax rates up, and it's an endeavor because not every family is in agreement. And the educational process is a piece of it too, but Commissioner Carlton's done a great job with that. And we need to stay at it because that's the only way we move through this.
Helen has done an outstanding
incredible.
job. Our vaccination rates have moved up. We're over the 50 percentile mark and it's starting to inch up more. We got to do more on that. The infection numbers have gone down. I had a low of 16 yesterday. You know, I'm not seeing the triple digits anymore. We're in double digits, even lower, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods. We got to stay vigilant on it. We're going into a time where people are going to be indoors. So if this trend can continue, I just urge people to, read on the facts and seriously consider if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated. That's how we're going to be able to get these masks off. That's how we'll be able to get out of the T-Birds penalty box that we're in right here now and do it that way. But it's trending the right way now. We want to keep that trend going. So vaccinations are key for us to move forward. Any other questions on the superintendent's report? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to unfinished business. Hearing none, we'll move to new business. Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn? So wait, I think Ms. Hurst said that. Thank you. Motion by Ms. Hurst. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Perez. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, more than sufficient vote. This matter passes once again live from the penalty box of the T-Birds game, the home opener this Saturday. Thank you for watching. Good health and God bless.